Coming up, Michael Porter Jr. has some post-trade comments that left Nuggets fans in a stir and Nets fans excited. What did he say? I'll break down all that after this.
You are Locked On Nets, your daily Brooklyn Nets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Nets podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team, the Brooklyn Nets, every single day. I'm Erik Slater, Brooklyn Nets beat reporter for ClutchPoints.com. Thank you for making me your first listen of the day. The show is 100% free on all those great platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And on today's show, I'm going to be joined by a familiar face for Nets fans to break down some comments from Michael Porter Jr. about his Denver tenure and his expectations with the Nuggets. We'll also touch on just overall thoughts on the trade and how Brooklyn has positioned themselves in their rebuild. I'm joined now by Matt Brooks, a familiar face to Nets fans, former writer for Nets Daily, and now writer and digital content specialist for the Denver Nuggets. And Matt, we had a big Nets-Nuggets trade, so I had to bring you in. You got familiarity with both sides, obviously. Just right off the bat, we all know the deal. It was Michael Porter Jr. and a unprotected 2032 first-round pick to the Nets for Cam Johnson. When news of that deal broke, just what was your initial reaction? How did you feel both sides did?
Feels like a win-win, like for what both teams want. You know what I mean? Like this is a great player for Denver to get who fits their timeline, what they're looking for. And then in terms of the Nets, like you got a really, really valuable asset. That 2032 first is a really premium asset. That is like a very, very, very good compensation in my eyes. So yeah, to me, this is a good trade for both sides. I think you're maximizing the window of Nikola Jokic, and then the Nets, you're thinking kind of ahead, forward-thinking move of building for whatever's next.
And I think there were the kind of reactions to the trade were all over the board among like media pundits and some people. I do know that a lot of people have said, what you just said, that 2032 first from Denver was being valued really highly across the league. And people were kind of waiting to see if they would move off that to maximize, their window now around Nikola Jokic. And then obviously MPJ was a little bit of a salary dump, and the Nets bring in CJ. The Nuggets bring in CJ to, clear some flexibility, but also there's a conversation about MPJ and CJ, how do they stack up as players? Did the Nuggets create flexibility and get a significant upgrade? Some people feel that way. Some people feel that they're in kind of a similar tier of player and the Nuggets kind of more so just replace them. Obviously, they do some things differently. But when you compare MPJ and CJ, how do you feel? Do you feel they're in that similar tier of player? Or do you think it's just something where CJ might be an upgrade and he's bringing some things to the table that MPJ didn't?
Yeah, just looking through like some of CJ's synergy numbers, he's just really versatile. Like you can run handoffs, pick and roll. He's a good cutter. He's had like isolation numbers, transition. Again, these are just looking over the numbers. But his versatility is really what stands out. I think the Nuggets, as they're building past this championship season, they really want to find like multiple ways to win. Like that year they won. And a lot of their offense and everything that they did was through that Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic pick and roll. Well, it's been 2 years since then. That's still a really effective play type, but it's been 2 years. Other teams have tape, and they are trying to bring in different guys, I would say, that can kind of add to that, add different dynamics. And Cam just is that. Like his versatility, I think, is what makes him stand out. In terms of shooting, like they're similar shooters. MPJ is one of the best pure shooters, like just in terms of pure shooting touch in the world. Like he is an unbelievable shooter. He's really good on wide open shots, good catch and shoot guy. So in that sense, I think MPJ is really solid there. Somebody like Cam Johnson is a little bit more of like a movement shooter. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Like you can run ghost screens or have him slip out of screens. You can run staggers for him. So I think the versatility is the big thing that I look at when I see Cam and what the Nuggets are looking at.
Yeah, you look at just where Cam graded out, on all the different play types as you were talking about in terms of being, a catch and shoot guy, a pick and roll ball handler, a cutter, even in some isolations. Last season, he graded out really high just across the board, and everything he did was one of the more efficient players in the league. So I'm sure you and the Nuggets fans are very excited to get a player like that alongside Nikola Jokic. When you look back on what Michael Porter Jr. did with the Nuggets, obviously he was there, 6 seasons? You got there right before the championship season. He obviously played a big role there. And in the last 2 years, he was healthier than in past, but maybe there were some ups and downs. Just when you reflect on that, how do you feel overall about his tenure, covering him, what he was able to do on the court, all of that?
Well, he's you'll have fun interviewing him. Like from reporter to reporter, you'll have a lot of fun because he's candid and he gives really good answers. Beyond that, I mean, again, I said it, like he is a spacer. He really, really spaces the floor well. One of the best shooters in the world. He's got, I think, the 3rd highest release point in the league, behind Wemby and Kevin Durant. So he's really, like, he can hit contested threes. He's a really good shooter. And he made developments to his game over the last 2 years. I mean, for one, you mentioned it, like he's been an Ironman. He's been like the Nuggets, one of their, I'd probably say like 2 most healthy players, maybe 3 with Jokic.
He only missed 4 games the last 2 seasons, I think, total.
Yeah,
so,
it was
kind of weird,
like
because people, the big thing with him was his injury history.
Yeah, it's a great story, honestly. Like that he had 3 back surgeries and he ends up being one of the 3 most healthy players. I think part of that was that he went through so many injuries. He values each game so much because he really, like, there was a period of his life where he wasn't sure if he was going to play again. Because I mean, when you go through 3 back surgeries, I know you guys have seen it with Ben Simmons. Like that's a really hard injury to come back from. So he values every single game in that way. And he was an Ironman. Like it was him, Christian Brown, and Nikola are like the 3 guys that have really stayed healthy. So yeah, he's great in that regard. And then just things that he's added to his game. I think he averaged the most paint touches of his career last year. His assists have gone up gradually too. So he's definitely added stuff to his game. But the big thing is the shooting. He'll get a lot of opportunity with that Nets roster, just with how many pass first guys. I haven't been super tapped into you guys summer league wise, but seems like that's the general trend is there's a lot of pass first guys. So that'll be good for him. He is definitely a really good play finisher, and you guys have a lot of play initiators. So to me, like I could see him having some pretty big performances.
Yeah, he had some comments, about his feelings about his time in Denver, and we're going to get into that in a second, and potentially what his role could be with the Nets. But last thing on this first segment, just when you look at outside of, when he in his role, his complimentary role that he was playing with the Nuggets, and obviously a big part of the motivation for the trade for them was getting off the salary, creating some financial flexibility, being able to add some guys beyond him. But when you look at some of the areas that he might have come up short in these last few seasons, to the point where maybe the Nuggets felt that he wasn't worth the value that he was on that deal, what are some of the areas you felt like that they thought they maybe needed to add and improve, that he wasn't bringing to the table there?
Yeah, probably just the shot versatility. Like as I mentioned, he's a really, really, really good shooter. But just the different ways, I guess, you can get 3-point shots would be something where to me, Cam kind of separates himself. And it really, most of it just came down to flexibility, looking ahead and adding somebody that maximizes Nikola, like somebody like Cam, who is, again, I've mentioned this a couple of times, but is dynamic and can, affect the game in multiple ways. Let's say Nikola sits. Well, if you have a lineup with Jamal and Cam Johnson, we feel like there's more you can do with that, right? Than, I guess like Mike and Jamal playing together. But yeah, I think a lot of it really just comes down to the different types of things you can run that appeals about Cam in that way.
All right, coming up after a quick break, we're going to talk about some comments Michael Porter Jr. made about what his role could potentially be with the Nets and, some things that maybe he's adding to his game. So we'll touch on all that after a quick break. But before that, want to tell you about FanDuel. Guys, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Guys, you can use FanDuel to track all your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like much-watch events. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today and visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, coming back from the break, talking with Matt Brooks, former writer for Nets Daily and now a content specialist with the Denver Nuggets. And we got to talk about some of the comments that Michael Porter Jr. has made in the fallout from the trade. He filmed his own YouTube video, kind of giving his reactions to the deal, how he found out, all that, saying goodbye to the Nuggets. And then we just talked to him yesterday at Summer League, and some of the comments that he made that stuck out to a lot of people, maybe angered some Nuggets fans, were that he felt that his ceiling had plateaued with the Nuggets and that he wasn't able to do some things that maybe he wanted to. He was seeking an expanded role, and now he's going to a Nets team where he's going to have all the opportunity in the world to do that. So first, just when you hear him say that he feels his ceiling plateaued with the Nuggets and maybe he wasn't able to do some of the things that he wanted to, what's your reaction to that? And do you feel like, is that something that you would kind of agree with?
I think that's valid. I mean, he's a third option, or it was a third option out here. And I'm sure there's stuff like when you have a championship team, there's buy-in from everybody. Like Aaron Gordon there's a ton of buy-in from AG. I think he even mentioned him in the media availability. So like, I don't know if that's even necessarily like a bad thing. And I personally am excited for Mike. Like I've seen Mike develop from a catch, even just on the Nuggets team, like just that Nuggets iteration. I've seen him evolve from a really good spacer, catch and shoot guy in the championship run to somebody who's gotten much, much better at catch and go stuff. So if you run him off the 3-point line, he's going to finish with a floater. He'll finish through contact. That's something that he added, and he did that while playing within a role. So I'm excited to see what he adds. There's other parts of his game I'd like to see too. Like he was really accurate on mid-range shots. I think 2 years ago, he shot above 50%. So it'll be curious for me to see, like, can he have that type of efficiency and also dial up those attempts way more? So I'm excited for him. I mean, he's going to explore a little bit more of a 3-level game, would be my assumption, in Brooklyn. And that's something that I know he's wanted to do. And I'm excited for him because that's fun. That's the appeal of going to a team that's maybe going a different direction, is that you get to see, all right, what am I capable of? Like, what can I do if I'm given kind of the free reign of the offense?
Yeah, when we did the media availability yesterday, I asked him just about the comment that he felt his ceiling plateaued and what his expectations for his role were. And yeah, he did say, when you're on a championship team like that, everybody's going to make sacrifices. And he said, Aaron Gordon went from being a primary option to a fourth option. He was a third option. He felt that he averaged, he said, over 20 points per game. He felt like he has more he can do. And with this Nets team, they're extremely limited in terms of shot creators. Cam Thomas is really the only high-level shot creator, and we're all expecting him to be back, but he's still unsigned and restricted free agency. But outside of him, you have a lot of rookie ball handlers who are not shot-first guys, to say the least. And, there really isn't much on the bench there. So he's going to have all the opportunity to expand his offensive role. But I'm interested in how he's going to do that because, he's a guy who's obviously played, off the ball, and he's a guy you said can do things when run off the 3-point line. So do you think it's going to be something where he's going to be best still off the ball and kind of working off, some of those zoom actions and things along those lines? Or is it going to be something where he could try to be a little bit more of a primary ball handler, run some high pick and rolls, initiate things that way, or those things that you don't really think that, he has in his bag?
I mean, I think there's like no harm in like trying it. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Nets are, from what I've gathered, they're being pretty measured about expectations and what the goal is next season. And I also think like you have 4 rookie ball handlers. So you're
Yes.
going to want to give them reps. Like at the end of the day, that's the goal of this iteration of the Nets. Is we want to let our guys kind of work through rookie mistakes, adjusting to NBA speed. And the best way to do that is to have them make mistakes, handle the ball, deal with 82 games of this. So, yeah, I think, you certainly can. There's no harm in seeing what Mike can do with the ball in his hands. I'm sure Mike would like to do that too. But I also think, hey, if that doesn't work, that's fine. We're going to have Mike on the second side, and he's going to be in a more dynamic second side role, right? Like it's not just, hey, space in the corner for when Nikola posts up. Like it's like, all right, we're going to run a pick and roll on one side of the floor for, one of the 4 or 3-4 rookie ball handlers. We're going to run that play, and then we're going to run maybe a stagger screen, or like you mentioned, we're going to run a Chicago or zoom set where he's coming off a pin down, flying into a handoff. So I think no matter where it shakes out, he's in a really good spot with this Nets team. Like if you're sending him to any team and it's not a championship team and he wants to explore his game, I actually think this is a really ideal destination for him, because he's on a team where so many guys are going to be getting him the ball, to be honest. Like that's a lot of the offense is going to be, hey, we need Mike to finish plays, and that'll be good for Mike. But just kind of the numbers that he's putting up.
Yeah, I spoke with Yegor Dioman after the Nets' last summer league game, and I asked him, have you spoken to Michael Porter Jr.? What's your thoughts? And his face lit up, and he was like, this guy's 6'10", he can shoot threes. Like that's going to be amazing for me. Like I need a guy like that. So he's really excited in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I've been interested in, what MPJ's expectations are going to be for what he's going to do, because like you said, the Nets have 4 rookie ball handlers. You're going to want to get them reps. That's the goal. But you also have a guy in Michael Porter Jr. who just said that he's excited to expand his game. He feels like he can do more. There's another level he can reach. So I've just been trying to, think about how does he view that? And is that more of an off-ball thing? Does he think that he's going to have more on-ball capabilities? But, it's interesting because there's kind of like parallels. I almost feel like remember when Jeremy Grant went to Detroit and he, went from being a total complimentary guy to averaging 23, 24 points per game, was doing a lot of things that maybe he ultimately didn't end up being doing long-term. I wonder if that, is going to be a similar deal to how this plays out. Do you see any parallels to that situation?
I do. And here's the thing, it doesn't mean if Mike wants the ball in his hands, it doesn't mean he's taking it the full court. Like you can run a pick and roll on the second side. And especially if you have ball handlers who they're not necessarily score first, if they don't get the angle for a drive or whatever, kicking it to Mike's second side and you have 15 seconds left on the shot clock. Well, that's basically a Mike possession where he's handling the ball and creating. So again, there are ways to do it. It's not so, all right, Mike is either handling the ball or he's not. He's either taking it 94 feet or he's not. No, there's different ways you can do that. And Jordy's a really good coach. So I think it'll work out, and I think it'll play a lot to Mike's strengths. And I do like that comp for Jeremy Grant. And here's the thing too, there have been guys like Jeremy Grant, or I'm trying to think of some other names, maybe McHale. McHale goes and gets his own team, and he expands his game a little bit. And then he goes to, a playoff team again, and he's able to take some of those things and apply them to a new situation. And, I wonder if something like that could hold for Mike. Is Mike going to expand his game, give different elements to what he's able to do offensively? And then can he take those things? And if he does get moved in the future, or, his contract is up in 2 years, if he goes somewhere else, can he use those things and, and apply them to wherever he is next?
All right, one more break, and then we're going to talk about what Nets fans should ultimately be expecting from Michael Porter Jr., and then get some thoughts from Matt on how everything has played out since he made his departure from Brooklyn, because it has been a whirlwind. So all that coming up after a quick break. But before that, want to tell you about our friends over at Hungry Root. Let's be honest, meal planning and grocery shopping can be overwhelming. Between busy schedules, picky eaters, and trying to eat healthy, it's a lot. That's why I love Hungry Root. They take the stress out of planning by filling your cart for you with personalized groceries and meal options based on what you like and need. Hungry Root uses their smart cart technology to recommend groceries, recipes, and even supplements tailored to your preferences. Whether you're dairy-free, gluten-free, focused on gut health, or just trying to eat better, Hungry Root's got you covered. Guys, I took their quick quiz, and right away, Hungry Root recommended meals and snacks that I actually want. The schedule can get busy. What I love most is that I don't waste time at grocery stores or stress over what's for dinner. Hungry Root has already figured that out for me. Guys, take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. All right, coming back from the break, closing out today's Locked On Nets episode, talking with Matt Brooks, former Nets Daily writer, now with the Denver Nuggets. And we just spoke about a lot of the comparisons between CJ and Michael Porter Jr., some of the new things that he could potentially be doing. If you were a Nets fan ultimately, and you're looking at MPJ stepping into this Nets team, just what would be your expectations for him based on, what you've seen with the Nuggets, based on him trying to expand his game? How do you think ultimately that it's going to play out for him here?
I like it. I mean, I've said, I like the fit. I think it's a really good situation for him to explore his game. And then also, continue to play within a team that he's going to be a really big help for. Like, he's going to really help those young guys develop with his shooting and his ability to make plays if he's ran off the line. So I like the fit for him. I think for Nets fans, the MPJ heat checks are fun. They're fun, man. When that dude gets hot, it's like he's hitting everything. So that's those type of guys are really fun. There's nothing like an MPJ game, and he'll do this. He'll have first quarters where he comes out and he hits 4 or 5 threes, and this dude is he's got a guy in his face. Doesn't matter. So that's fun. That stuff matters when you're in a season where it might be a rebuilding year. It probably will be. That stuff makes those games when you're in January or February and the team is 8 games below 500, makes it kind of fun. So he's going to be really fun in that regard. An MPJ heat check, I'll definitely miss those because those are fun. Those are fun, and it got the crowd in Denver hyped. People were up on their seats about it.
Speaking of heat checks, how do you feel about MPJ and Cam Thomas potentially sharing the floor together? At least offensively. We'll try to keep it positive offensively.
Yeah, that's a lot of it's play finishing, right? I don't know. I'm actually really curious to see how Cam looks with the rookies. Mike, to me, it makes a lot of sense, and maybe it's just because I've watched Mike more and I haven't watched Cam a lot in the last 2 years. But on paper, those guys are great play finishers because they both are wired to score. And if you're playing them with a bunch of pass first rookies, that should work in my head. That should be a good way to do it. And it'll keep those two guys really happy too. They're going to be getting looks that they're going to be all right, I'm looking to score on this. There's no question of, do I need to enter the ball to, let's say Nikola in the post? No, these guys, your job is to score the basketball.
Yeah, and last thing with MPJ, we just touched on the offense, obviously, at length. I want to touch on the defense a little bit because, we saw the Nets last season on first year under Jordi Fernandez. We're a team that punched above their weight for a lot of the season, and a lot of the reason they did that was just out-hustling teams and how hard they played. Some of their guys pressuring guys 94 feet, and then in the half court, they ran a pretty aggressive defensive coverage just in terms of, high hedging on pick and rolls, recovering, rotating on the back end, scram, switches, a lot of that stuff. Just how do you feel about what MPJ brought to the table defensively with the Nuggets? Because, on paper, he's a guy who's 6'10", he's athletic. You'd think he'd be, a plus on that end. Just how do you feel ultimately about what he did there and what he'll be with this Nets team?
Yeah, for sure. I'll say the championship run, Mike was amazing as a weak side guy. That was an awesome. Round 2 against Phoenix, I remember being really, really good. He was really, really good as a team defender then. And it's funny, as the years have kind of progressed, I think his isolation defense has improved a lot. I mean, that in watching him, that's where I felt the isolation, that part of his defensive package really stepped up, was just him staying in front of guys, getting in a stance. Part of that was probably just honestly getting back on the floor and being used to being on the floor, being used to, okay, I can get into a stance and I can stay in front of guys. Because you got to realize, like, what that championship year, that was his first full year back. So he's testing the limits of what he can even do physically. And by the end of, let's say 2 full healthy seasons, or 3 really, he kind of trusted his body at that point. And the isolation defense was what was good to me. I actually felt like the team defense is the thing that slipped a little bit. So for him to be successful on this Nets team, I think the team defense, the rotating as the low man, that stuff ideally gets back to where he was at the championship level, because he was great then. Like, he was outstanding. I mean, he was a legitimate secondary rim protector, and it made a big, big difference for a Nuggets team that took a huge jump defensively. I mean, they, from regular season to postseason, I think they were the team with the lowest regular season defensive rating to win a title in the last 20 years. So a big part of that was guys like Mike buying in, playing really good low man defense. So I think that will be the challenge for him. But the isolation defense, I expect to be where it was last year, because it was really good.
And I find that really interesting because, if he can guard in isolation, he is this weak side rim protector. The team defense stuff, a lot of that, comes down to understanding of concepts, obviously, and then just defensive engagement and buy-in. But when you're talking about a guy in MPJ, like, I think a lot of people have just been viewing this as he was the throw-in salary dump, in the trade and things like that. But I know, based on the Nets comments and things that I've heard, they think that they're getting a high-level player here. And I'm not ruling out the fact that he could be a long-term fit because, he's owed, a ton of money, like $79 million over the next 2 seasons. But the Nets are going to be rebuilding in those seasons. So they're really like no worse off for wear if they think that they can get him and then maybe extend him after that on a more reasonable deal. So if you have a guy who's 6'10", 40% three-point shooter on high volume, can maybe expand his game and do some stuff, and then has that defensive capability, if they can really get him to buy and lock in there, it sounds like a guy who should be, a high-level player in the NBA long-term. So are you viewing him as a guy? I think a lot of people have been down on him just because of what the contract is, but are you viewing him as a guy who could, rehabilitate his value a little bit and be a long-term piece for Brooklyn?
Yeah, and I also wouldn't even, like, the contract really doesn't matter, to be honest. Like, if you're the Nets and you're like, all right, we have a bunch of like rookie scale guys, like, all right, we have a guy making whatever, 79 million. Does it really matter? Like, what does that matter? It mattered more for like a team like the Nuggets, where the margins are a lot thinner and you're dealing with aprons and stuff like that. For the Nets, no, I think you're bringing in a player that's talented. And I keep hitting on this, but like really, really, really could accentuate all of the young talent you brought in. I mean, you brought in a lot of ball handlers. So if you can find a guy who's finishing plays and accentuating those guys' strengths, and also just like making it fun for them to play NBA basketball, like, all right, I'm getting assists because I just made like a sweet no-look dime to the corner and MPJ just hit a contested 3. Like, there's value in that. There for sure is. So I think really for me, that's what it's going to come down to. It's not so much all right, can he expand his game? He definitely could, but you might even just look at it as well, this guy really fits our young guys and what we're trying to build here. And we like that. We want somebody like this who's going to take those guys' game a level bit, like a level higher. And also they're going to maximize his game.
All right. Last thing, closing out the show, Matt, what year did you depart for Denver? Remind me, that was the Nuggets. Was that 22, 23?
Yes. So it's funny. We had Cam here this week. He's like showed up to a practice, and it kind of hit me. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. I covered 2 games of Cam Johnson.
2 games.
Yeah, 2 games. And one of them was against the Knicks, where they lost by like 30. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yeah,
that game sticks out. I wrote about it. It was the first time the Knicks had beaten the Nets in since the KD Kyrie era, right?
Yeah.
So I remember writing about that game. And then I get hired by the Nuggets like probably 2 days later or something like that. So that time, that was a blur. It was fun though, man. Like I got hired, covered, I think 5 regular season games. The Nuggets went like 2-3 or something. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I'd been watching the Nets for 50 games.
Yeah. And then you slide a championship ring onto your finger. So really interesting how things play out. But since then, obviously it's been, a lot has gone down in Nets world, and they've kind of trended towards, they got rid of McHale. They got their draft picks back. They're into a full rebuild, first lottery pick in 15 years. I mean, you're a guy who has familiarity with the Nets with the front office. There's been some turnover since then, but just overall, just, what are your feelings on how things have played out since then and the position that they've ultimately put themselves in now? Because, it's a little bit of a different direction.
I think they've nailed it. I mean, like the amount of assets that they've gotten back for KD is crazy. That list just keeps growing. It's insane. And you like juxtapose that to like what the Suns got back, and it's like, I mean, that was only what, 2 seasons, a year and a half, and it is that big of a difference. I mean, you're getting the Suns got 1 pick back, 2 picks back.
Yeah, they got the number 10 pick. Yeah.
It's just like the Nets are still getting picks back.
Yeah.
It's insane. So they nailed that. They nailed that trade. It's completely changed their direction. It's given them a direction. And it's been exciting. And their draft was really interesting. I've never seen a team take 5 draft picks, which is
it's never happened. That's why.
I've never seen that. I'm curious. You probably know more than me, but I'm curious, like what they're modeling that after. Like the league's so reactionary. My thought was, is this like a Pacers thing, like where we're gonna bring in like 4 or 5 point guards? I don't know, but it's the point being, I've really liked what they've been able to do and how they've been able to spin this, because they've done a really good job of not only like shutting the door on the KD Kyrie era, but immediately pivoting into the next era. It's been honestly like really impressive to see how they pulled that off.
All right, Matt, really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure that Nets fans are going to be fired up to see a familiar face and hear from you about something that, relates to the team you're covering now and obviously Brooklyn. So I really appreciate it, man. And maybe Nets Nuggets, maybe we'll circle back and have some more content around those times.
I'd love it. Let's do it.
That does it for this episode of Locked On Nets. Hope you guys really enjoyed the talk with Matt. Getting to hear from him again. Obviously, he did a lot of great work when he was covering the Nets. And I think he gave you guys a little insight into what MPJ did there in Denver. If you guys don't already, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Nets wherever you get your podcasts, whether Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, go to the YouTube channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you really enjoy this, anything you can do to engage is much appreciated. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about MPJ's comments. Let me know about your expectations for his role with Brooklyn next season. But I'm still out here in Las Vegas. We're going to have coverage of the Nets-Knicks Summer League game, Brooklyn's 3rd Summer League contest. How are the rookies doing? Is Drew Timme continuing to dominate? Do we have a Summer League MVP on the horizon for him? I'll have all that when I'm back tomorrow talking more Brooklyn Nets basketball.